All right, today's starting entertainment. So I was riding back from Cedarburg to Grafton a couple days ago, and I was going 20 miles an hour when my bike post snapped off. So that was an interesting crash. I mostly saved it. I used my great ninja skills and didn't die. Just got a couple of scrapes and stuff. But yeah, and the thing is, if you zoom in, it's kind of gets, but I had reinforced this with another steel pipe inside of it, but I had already started bending the external pipe before I started that. So actually, this pipe goes into the bike here. This is where they usually break. So this one broke where I have the bend. So I went over and got some galvanized steel piping today to put inside of the new seat post. I just don't understand why, these people, they can make skyscrapers, but they can't make bike posts to hold heavy people. Sounds like a made up problem. And this is an e-bike, so like it's not trying to be light. I get it. Like if you're an Olympic cyclist and they're trying to, every little, fraction of an ounce matters to get maximum speed and stuff. Like my bike is heavy to lift for a person. So what's an extra, 3 or 4 pounds in titanium piping or something? So that's the funny story. Well, it's funny now since I didn't really get injured. Just have a couple of battle wounds. All right, so let's see. We did not have homework over break. The last thing we did was we went through and we wrote our code for our dice rolls, right? Get Android Studio open here. So today we're going to look at something, we're going to improve on this a little bit, looking at something called, well, we've already done array lists before, but now we're going to attach that to something called a list view. Right, so let me minimize this. Okay. Let me just run this guy real quick to make sure our starting point is where I think our starting point is. I'm pretty sure we have the roles filling up in the right place right now. Oh, and thanks for meeting online today. I had to take my wife to get some blood work done this morning, just routine. So I was just chilling at home. So I can do something like 12d8 and roll. That gives me the total and then the individual rolls. Okay, so that's what we have now. So now what we want to do is we're going to say that these individual rolls like this, building this string, that's kind of inconvenient, or let's say there could be a better way. Now, we know that there are, if you've used a smartphone before and had apps, that sometimes there's like a list view where you can scroll through a bunch of things here, right? Because one issue we would have with this is as soon as I started, let's say I did something like 12,125 D8s and I hit roll. There's my there's my rolls. So I've killed off the rest of the user interface basically by having that guy go down. Now I can do something. Let's look at a quick upgrade to this first. So what I can do is I can go into my user interface. I can click on this guy. I can right click. I'm going to say I want to convert this view. I think this is going to do it in code as well, but let's see. So I'm going to convert this view. It's no longer going to be a text view. I now want it to be a scroll view. And I'll go ahead and apply that. I'm still going to call it roles TV, just so I don't have to change my code back over here. So back over here, I'm just going to change this guy to a scroll view. Oops, sorry. I got to spell it right. There we go. And okay, so I can't set the text directly in a scroll view. All right, that's okay. So I'm going to put this back to text view. I'll put it back to text view in here as well. So I'll convert it back to a text view. All right, so now it's back to where it was. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a scroll view. Is that under layouts? Widgets. Containers. So a scroll view is actually a container. So I can't put text in it directly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a scroll view into my linear layout here. And then I'll put that roles thing inside of my scroll view. Come on, you got this. Let me tell this guy to wrap content for its height. Can't use the drag and drop to get it in there. Oh, I need to put it inside the linear layout of that. So scroll view comes with a vertical linear layout. I'll go ahead and put my roles TV inside of that linear layout. Now I am going to go ahead though and give myself a little bit bigger drop area for my, oh, actually, since it's wrapping content, I think it will automatically resize, but I'm actually going to set the height to, let's see what 100 dp looks like. All right, so I actually did it. So we'll wrap content, match parent. So I set the scroll view itself to be bigger, which then is inherited by the guys underneath it. So what this should do, I believe, is now if I try to roll like the 12,000 things, it'll put it, it won't let it get longer than this, but I'll be able to scroll through this, I believe. This isn't what I was going to show you today, but this should, so we'll do 12,000 D8s. This will show you like the middle ground, the stepping stone for what we're going to accomplish. All right, so there's all our roles, and see I can scroll through this now. So we've controlled how much of the screen this is going to take up. All right, now we would say this still isn't ideal, right? You know, this kind of at least makes it so that your user interface doesn't get destroyed. But at the same time, this isn't the best way to look at those roles. So as we saw here, a scroll view is actually a container that comes with its own linear layout. And then you can put things inside that linear layout just like we've done before, where the scroll view says, when this guy gets too big, when the scroll view, we've limited the size of the scroll view. When the things inside try to stretch out, the scroll view will fake it and make it scroll so you don't break your user interface. All right, so that's one thing we could do, is put stuff up in a scroll view, and I'll actually leave it in that scroll view for right now. And we'll do this other thing down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something else that's actually based on a scroll view, and that's called a list view. So under our, I think it's under containers, isn't it? Actually, let's go under legacy. Yeah, it's under legacy. There's a newer way of doing it called a recycler view now that has a little bit better performance, but it's also a little bit more difficult to use. We're going to keep things simple since we've used array lists, right? Is that what we've used? In just Java. We wanted something to have a an arbitrary size instead of a normal array. So I'm going to go ahead and take this list view. I'm going to drop it down here at the bottom. All right, so it's going to give us something that looks like this. Now, the list view itself, and you'll see how this works here in a few minutes, we're not going to make custom rows. You maybe have seen a application before that has, you know, very customized looking rows inside this thing that has icons and stuff like that in it. You can certainly do that. You can design your own row as its own little horizontal linear layout if you want. But we're going to use the built-in one that kind of comes with this. Let's see, is that the, yeah, it's by itself. So we're going to use the horizontal one that comes with this, which is a simple list layout. So I'm going to go ahead and name my list view, this guy. We're going to name it roles LV. All right, so that's my list view. Now, a list view itself manages a collection of list items, where each of these fake rows that are currently in here is a list item. Now, list items are governed by an array list. So what we actually do is we have, and let me add this to the notes here. So we'll say ScrollView versus ListView. A ScrollView is a container which houses a linear layout that will automatically scroll the content when the elements inside the container want to take over the rest of the user interface. So we limit the scroll view height and let it do the rest of the magic. A list view is built in terms of a scroll view, but it automatically provides a collection of list items that will scroll and are filled in when attached to a array list through an array adapter. Right, so let me show you the picture of what that second thing says. List view visual. So we have our actual application here. And our application is going to have, actually, I'm going to steal this guy, make it just a little bit skinnier. I'll make it shorter and we'll make it yellow. So, you know, it's going to show us something that looks like this, where we have rows of elements, that kind of thing. All right. So this is our app. This is our list view. These are list items. So this is a list item. All right. Now we have a tool called an ArrayAdapter. So this is a code object. His job is to adapt an array list to a list view. Similarly, we'll have our array list in code, which holds the elements that we want to show up in the list view. So just like we've done before, if we have an arbitrary number of things, so like and actually in our case here, we don't have an arbitrary number of things. We actually do know that we're trying to do 12,000 things, but we can certainly put each of those roles as a string into our array list. And then, so we fill up the array list just like we've historically done. This is all Java, has nothing to do with Android. Okay. Then once we've done that, then we can create an array adapter. Now, array adapters adapt this guy so that he's prepared to fit into this guy. All right. Then we let this guy know about the adapter. So this adapter does that magic. And what does this ultimately do? This guy maps the contents of the array list to the way our list item view should look. So this is MVC again. All right, we're going to use default list items. So just it's called like a simple list item. I'll stumble upon the name of it. It's like r.layout.simple list item or something that has two little things associated with it, and they actually show it here. So it has like a top level item and then like a sub thing. So you can kind of say, maybe if you're listing like sports players, maybe this would say Mike Littman, and then underneath it would have like jersey number or something like that all in one row. So they kind of give you like a simplified layout for like the common stuff that you might want to list, where you don't even need to use the subtext if you don't want to. You might just want to have strings in there. That keeps you from having to do some sort of custom design when you just want to have a list of stuff. But if you have a list of things that need to be more complex, let's say you're looking at like a stock price application or something like that, where each of these rows maybe has like the ticker symbol, the current price, maybe it has an image showing like the chart for the last 30 days, something like that, something that wouldn't just be built into Android. You do have the ability to come over here and create your own layout for that guy, so that you could have your own layouts for this. And we may do that, but I'm thinking we won't, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because I want to get back to some sorting stuff. But this is going to give us a nice container to hold things that we sort. So that's why we're adding it to our application here. All right, so we create a normal array list. This guy's going to have all of our individual roles in it. Then we create an array adapter that links the array list to a layout that is going to be the default one. And then we let our list view know about our array adapter. And that hooks those things up so that ultimately on our screen, we will have all of our roles showing up inside of this list view. All right, so let's go and look at that. So I've named this guy roles list view. So I'll go back into my code here and let's give ourselves access to that guy. So we're going to create a private list view called roles LV. I'll go ahead and connect it in here. This dot roles LV is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot roles LV. All right, so now I have access to that guy. We're going to go down here to our role button pressed. Let's see. So where are we? So right now we're creating a normal array with the right quantity. I'm just going to go ahead and create an array list of type string here. We'll call this the roles array list. Minimize this. All right, so this is the normal array list that we've created before. This has nothing to do with Android. This is just allowing us to create an arbitrary size collection of strings in this case. And then what I'll do is down here, every single time I get a new role, I'll go ahead and add that role to my array list as well. So I'll call this roles, the roles array list dot add the roles at bucket I. And actually that's holding an int, right? So I'll build a string out of that. So this is going to be the integer of our last role. We got it right here. And then I'll go ahead and turn that guy into a string and I'll throw it into our array list. So we're actually currently storing our stuff two separate times. We're storing it inside of our the roles array, normal plain Jane array that has a fixed size when we first create it. And then I'm also going to put that same role as a string into my roles array list. All right, because ultimately I'm going to use this guy as the source for my list view. All right, so now afterwards, we're going to say set the list view to show the contents of the roles array list. And in order to do that, we're going to need an array adapter. So we're going to create an array adapter of type string. We'll call this guy the adapter. And this is going to be a new array adapter of type string. Now the constructor for this guy, let me remind myself, well here, actually, let's go look at some documentation. I think it takes context and then the list view and then the source. Array adapter, Android. All right. Yeah, so here when we build this guy, it's taking in our context, which is always the current, well, from our perspective, it's the current activity. So this will be this. Then it wants to know the resource. So this is going to be the r.layout.simple whatever. And then it wants our collection. So I'm putting in an array list, but we actually could give it that array of integers. We'll test that here in a minute. I believe that'll work. This is actually the version we're using one down here. So we're on the context, the resource, and then something of list type. We're an array list. If I click on list there, it'll probably tell me what known here's an array list. These are known subclasses. All right, so again, the things we've been harping on in class, being able to read documentation. So I'm going to create an array adapter, passing it the context, my resource, and actually this is the one I'm using, context, the resource, which is going to be the layout for the view, and the list item rather, and then my actual collection. So this is my context. R.layout.simple, is it not R.layout? R.layout. Let's see if I can stumble upon it based on memory. Otherwise, let's go look it up. So it is layout. Oh, I think it's Android.R. Oh, well, let's look it up. Android list view simple layout. Oh, that's for creating a custom one. I don't want a custom one. This one. Android.R.layout.simple list item. Android.R.layout.simple list item 1. There we go. And then my collection, which is called the roles array list. All right, so I'm going to build an array adapter that's adapting a collection of strings in this context using this layout that's built in, using this collection. So again, using the picture, I'm in the process of building this object right here. I'm building my array adapter, which adapts this guy to this list view. So I need to let it know about my collection. That was the third parameter. And I need to let them know about what this list item looks like. And I'm using the default simple one, which is built in. And that's what I had to go look up, is where they stored that Android.R.layout.simple list item 1. There looks like there was a couple other simple list items that show you the, so if I do simple underscore list underscore item, maybe it'll show us the different. Simple underscore list underscore item. I'll type in Android. Does it show us what our different ones look like? Yeah, not conveniently. We could probably play with it and get a couple different ones. In fact, we'll do that. We'll look at a couple different ones. So this is list item 1. We pass it our array list. So now we've built our array adapter. So we have this filled up with our roles. We now have this that adapts it. Now we need to let our list view, this guy, know about the adapter? Roles LV, set adapter to the adapter. All right, so that closes the loop. I filled up my array list up here. I then built my adapter in terms of that array list and what my list items look like in my roles list view and my collection. And then I let the list view know about this adapter. I'll go ahead and run this again. And we'll go ahead here. I'll just do 1500 D12s. We'll roll. So there's those things there. We notice this thing scrolls quite a bit, but now I have those individual roles down here. All right, so I have it in two different formats. We're going to say that maybe this one is easier to look at. All right, questions on that? All right, and let's look at what, like, if we get different ones here. List item 2. Let's see if that guy looks substantially different to us. My guess is one allows for sub things, the other one does not. Or it just crashes because this guy probably expects you to give it both the title and the sub, and we're only giving it a single string. Yeah, here, how to set both lines. You have to give it two different, well, that's for a cursor adapter. Yeah. So if you want to set both lines, you need to store a little bit different kind of stuff inside of your array list. We're not going to mess with that. We want to keep this simple. So we use list item 1, and that's fine. That'll give us nice, simple scrolling list view of strings. As an alternative to this scroll view up here that houses a linear layout that we can make scroll as well. Not that one is better or worse than the other. It's probably whichever makes the most sense for your user interface. Okay, so questions about anything we just did here, because we're going to be using it for our homework to do something different. I want to make sure you understand what we're doing right here. Nothing in chat. We'll just make the assumption everybody's still awake. All right, so let's go back to the notes now. So at this point, we kind of have some rudimentary skills in working with Android. We are going to create, learn the skill to get us to another page. in Android, but we're not going to do that quite yet. Let's do a couple of other things here. So right now we kind of know the basics of MVC. We know how to put things in our user interface and connect them to code. We know how to respond to button clicks. And now we know a couple different ways of showing collections of lots of items on the screen using a couple of different formats or something if we kind of return to this idea of searching and sorting and that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's see. Have we've done insertion sort, so I'm not going to look at bubble sort, but we have not done binary search yet. Is that correct? I'll just assume that's correct.
I think we have.
We did do binary search? Okay. That was the one where the data had to be sorted first. And then we went to, I called it the dictionary search. So then we went to the center. We said, is this it? Then we decided which half is it on? We did that one?
Yeah, we did that.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, okay. I see where we're at. And we also did do insertion sort, correct? That was the one with the follower where we start at bucket 1 and then we move stuff to the front of the list as far as we can. I'm guessing that's a sort we probably used for our binary search. So now we're on to a merge sort, which is just going to be a nightmare. Oy. All right. So I'm going to teach you merge sort today, but we're going to actually create an app. So our homework. Well, no, let's just do it. So merge sort. I'm going to give you fair warning, you're not going to like this. First of all, let's talk about recursion. I've probably introduced it at some point, but let's just look at recursion as a reminder. Get to... All right, so the idea of recursion is when you have a function that calls itself from within itself. All right. I like to use, so if we say example of recursion, we have something like 4 factorial. So we know that 4 factorial is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? So that's 12 times 2 is 24 times 1 is still 24. So this should give us a 24. That's what 4 factorial is. All right, but now as we look at this, we can say that 4 factorial is equal to 4 times 3 factorial. Because isn't 3 factorial equal to 3 times 2 times 1? And then we can say that 3 factorial is actually equal to 3 times 2 factorial. And we can say that 2 factorial is actually equal to 2 times 1 factorial. And 1 factorial is equal to 1. That's our stopping case. So this is us doing this recursively. Now we have not looked at this, have we? Have we written this? Is that one still a no, or is that one a yes? We may have actually looked at that in 200 shortly, but let's look at this example of factorial. I'm just going to put it in our current code. Actually, I'll start a new project. Android Studio. I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to make this empty activity. And we're going to call this guy CSC250 Spring 2021 merge sort. Finish. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just write a couple of examples here for our factorial, and we'll review a couple of our things here. And actually, I'll show you one additional interface element. So we'll come out here. I'll go ahead and convert my view to a linear layout. And I'll switch this guy to vertical for orientation. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to have an ability for the user to enter something in from the user interface. On the previous dice roller example, what we actually had happen is we had the, oh, 1 second. I just opened the dice roller back up. Let me go ahead and commit and push that just so you have the latest code. So that has the array list stuff in it now. Now we'll go back to our merge sort. All right, so we've gotten input from the user by having them click buttons for like the number of dice and typing, you know, the little calculator thing with 1s, 2s, 3s. But what if we want them to be able to type something in? So what we can do is under text, we have something called an edit text. So we're gonna have them putting in numbers here because we're gonna say, you know, enter the number for that you want to calculate factorial for, something like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and have them enter in a number, and actually it's just going to be a decimal number, a whole number. So all of these guys, we have this thing called a plain text edit text, and then we have all sorts of other versions of this: password, numeric password, email, phone number. These are all the same thing. What it does is it changes the keyboard associated with it to kind of limit the kinds of characters that the end user has access to. So we're going to just choose a decimal number for this guy. We'll drag it out here, and we'll call this guy input ET, input edit text. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a button in here. And we'll say calculate factorial. Oh, I need to have like an underscore or something. Oh, sorry. I don't need to have it for the button ID. I just need to have it for the text that's on the button. Calculate factorial. All right, so now we want to go ahead and write the code for this button to do something. So let's just go ahead and let's put a text view in here as well for like our answer. And we'll call this guy answer TV. All right, so for right now, let's just connect these up where we type in some number here, we click this button, and it puts that same number here just to see the flow of that information. So we'll go into our code here. We're going to give ourselves access to a couple of these things. So we're going to say private edit text input ET. We'll say private text view answer TV. Go ahead and set those guys up here. So we'll say this dot input ET is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot input ET. This dot answer TV is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot answer TV. So now we've let our code know about the stuff in our interface. Then we want to go ahead and write the on-click function for our button. So this will be public void, I'll say on factorial button clicked. This will take a view v as a parameter. And all this guy's going to do is he's going to read in the value from the edit text. So I'll say int, well, here, I'm going to say string cur value is going to be equal to this dot input et dot get text dot toString. So I'll read it in from the edit text. And then we'll say this dot answer TV dot set text cur value. Like that. Now we need to go back over here and let the button know that when it's clicked, it should call this function. Click on the button, go to his on click. Now it sees this button here. So now when I run this guy, notice it only gives me a keyboard that has numbers on it. So I'll say 62, and I'll say calculate factorial, and notice I have 62 pops up here. All right, if I change this to a 12 and I say calculate factorial, it'll give me a 12. So for our homework, extend our current factorial code. Let's say factorial Android application to calculate the factorial of whatever number was entered in the edit text and put the results in the answer text view. Now, right here is a code example of factorial recursively. You could put that in there, that's fine, but before you go and look at that, I would strongly encourage you to try to figure out the code for writing factorial recursively on your own. Notice that factorial recursively says, well, if I took the number 4, for example, I'm going to return 4 times the factorial of 3. So you'll call that same function again. If you take in a 3, you're going to return 3 times the factorial of 2. If you take in a 2, you'll return 2 times the factorial of 1. If you take in a 1, that's when it says, you gave me a 1, I'm just going to return a 1. I don't need to calculate any more factorials. Then this guy will be able to resolve, which will allow this guy to resolve, which will allow this guy to resolve, which will give us our final answer of 24. All right, so you have to write, you must write factorial recursively. Submit a GitHub link and the self-eval. All right, questions, what I'm asking you to do for Friday? I'll go ahead and push this code up to GitHub, and I'll give you a link to it if you want this as your starting point. But at this point, this is something you probably should be able to just kind of write on your own. All right, I will see everybody on Friday.